Welcome, everyone. Glad you could join us for this. We hope will be a very interesting conversation today. I'm Dave Myers. I'm the director of the Berks Alliance, and we want to thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn it over briefly to John Weidenhammer, who's the chair of the Berks Alliance, for a welcome as well. John?
Thanks, Dave, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining our call today. We have a presentation today that I know is of great interest to our community. It's been a long time in planning, and it's been through a lot of iterations as the plan has evolved and developed. And I just can't thank our presenters enough for taking the time to present this topic. And I know you're going to find it of great interest when you finally see the plan rolled out. So thanks again for tuning in. Just a reminder that the Berks Alliance is a community development organization, and we're focused on improving the health, wealth, and education attainment of our community, as well as topics of interest to the community. So Ken, if you could do me a favor and put your phone on your PC or whatever on mute, thank you. But in any event, thanks for joining the broadcast, and the work of the Berks Alliance continues. So Dave, back to you.
Thank you, John. I thank you for the prelude to my ground rules for the program. We do ask you to keep your cameras on so we know we're dealing with live people, but to mute your microphone so we don't have a background noise. We are recording the session. We will send a copy of the recording to everyone who has registered. We also post it on the Berks Alliance website and share it with our friends at BCTV, so it gets fairly wide coverage. We also encourage people to make use of the video if they have people they know that might be interested in doing it. We asked you to use the chat function at the bottom of the screen to submit your questions and comments. We'll get to those at the end of the formal presentation. I'll collect them. Any ones that we don't get through, we will collect them and send them with our presenters. Please remember to mute your microphone. Okay, and with that, I'm going to introduce Earl Armitage, who is the PennDOT consultant project manager for this project, and he will open us up and then turn it over to our real presenter. So, Earl, to you.
Thank you, John and Dave, and also thank you to the Berks Alliance for inviting us to present this very exciting project for 422, the West Shore Bypass. I believe, oh, there we go. I think everyone's muted now. I'm going to turn it over to Tim Benner. He's the project designer for the 422 West Shore Bypass project. We've been working on this for many years, as a lot of people I'm sure are aware. We've actually given two recent presentations, one to RATS and one to the municipal officials for this project. So we've been doing a lot more public outreach recently. So Tim's going to run through the project details, really focusing on the interchange improvements that we have at Penn and Lancaster. And then we'll leave time at the end for questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim. And Tim, we can see your screen, so I think we're all set.
All right, you got my screen, and I'll start the presentation here. Like everybody said, I appreciate everybody showing up today. I'll give a quick presentation here, a project update on the 422 project heading around Reading, West Reading in Berks County. It's been a little bit since we've been out in front of a lot of people, so I appreciate everybody showing up here. And I'll, since this is virtual and there's not going to be a whole lot of interaction, I'll try to roll through it, at a regular pace. And like we said at the end, we have plenty of time to answer any questions or take any comments. So stepping back, the original project, if everybody recalls, is the Section 29M project. That goes all the way from 222 on the west end, right here, all the way through about 5.2 miles past the 176 interchange. This is the overall project. It's called 422 Section 29M. This is the project that we've gotten environmental clearance for the entire piece. What we're going to be talking about here today is the first phase of construction.
Emails come in.
So
We're
I
talking-
don't understand.
the first phase of construction is what we're calling section PH1. It is a breakout piece of the original project. It is the centerpiece of the original project. It is in essence for the Penn interchange and the Lancaster interchange. This couple of miles right here, which is the core of the project, as well as down by 176, addressing an issue down there with the acceleration lanes coming off of 176 on the 422 westbound. With these two structures down here, what we're calling a Schuylkill River Bridge 2. That's just because the 422 crosses the Schuylkill River 3 times in our project. So this is the project we're going to be covering today. It is the first breakout piece of the overall 422 West Shore bypass project. So graphically, that's what this looks like. We'll get into all the little pieces as we go through here. Again, this starts here at Buttonwood. That's the western piece of our section PH1, covers the Penn interchange, what we're calling the viaduct structure here by First Ave and Lancaster Ave. You can kind of see by the graphics here that the interchanges are complete reconfigurations and reconstructions. That's the centerpiece of the PH1 project. And as we move down to the other piece, it's kind of a little bit of a standalone piece that's appended here, is to address an issue down here at Schuylkill River Bridge 2. Everybody knows the Trumpet interchange here at 176 when you're coming up 176 heading towards Reading. This will address that issue and replace this structure here over the Schuylkill River. There's also a structure right adjacent to it that goes over Norfolk Southern, that since the bridges are so close to each other, we're going to replace both of them at the same time. You'll notice that there's a slight alignment shift here, and that's because the existing bridges on 422 are twin girder structures. There's two main girders that carry all the traffic on these structures, so I can't stage traffic on the existing bridges. So we're building half the bridges upstream, shifting traffic, and then building the second half downstream. That's why you see that alignment shift at that location. And again, just so everybody understands what the typical section is when we're all finished the 422 projects, when we are all done, there will be 3 12-foot lanes each direction on 422 and 10-foot shoulders inside and outside. So you'll end up with a 22-foot median, 3 12-foot lanes, 10-foot wide shoulders. So a considerable widening in this corridor from what is there today. So I'm going to walk the project in a little bit more detail here as we move west to east through the project. As I'm going through it, I'm sure people may have questions at the end. Feel free. We can zoom in on any detail here and talk it through. So we're starting at Buttonwood Street Bridge. A lot of you know that there was a major rehabilitation on the Buttonwood Street Bridge years ago. This project will touch that bridge again. In essence, what we need to do to get our 3-lane section of 422 under there is replace the 3 spans that go over 422. We're not touching the arch spans that go over the river, but the 3 spans that go over 422 right now, if you recall, have haunched girders over here. And what happens is when we need to squeeze 3 lanes through there, I can't get vertical clearance there. So I need to take those haunch girders out, put flat girders in there to get vertical clearance for 422 as we move through there, and get my 3 lanes in there as well. Buttonwood Street Bridge is on the National Register. We got to be real careful on what kind of modifications we do here. So the span arrangement is going to be the same. The look of the project, the bridge when we're all finished is going to be identical to what it is today, except for those girders. Instead of the haunches, there'll be straight girders across there. Some people may think, hey, why can't we just lower 422 here to get the vertical clearance? The issue at this particular location is 422 is actually in the 100-year floodplain for the Schuylkill River at this location. So if we lower 422 here, it would actually exacerbate that condition. So we're keeping 422 where it's at and adjusting the structure to get our vertical clearance. And again, we're trying to mimic as best we can the existing structure so we don't have an adverse effect to Buttonwood Street. This replacement of these 3 spans is laid out to enable staged construction on Buttonwood, so we can maintain a single lane on Buttonwood with temporary traffic signals in each end, so we can keep traffic moving across Buttonwood while we do this replacement as well. And then there are some heavy utilities on those spans, which we'll need to accommodate and relocate as part of the project. So when we're all said and done, that we'll have it configured so we can squeeze our 6-lane section under the existing bridge. As we move down to Penn, you can kind of see here, it is a complete reconfiguration. The existing is a full cloverleaf interchange, which means it's free flow movements in each quadrant of that. If you've driven it, and I know most of you have, you know, there's weave points all over the place. There's weave is on 422, there's weaves up on Penn, and there's no control of any pedestrian crossings. It's just free flow traffic through here. You can kind of see at a high level here that we're going to completely reconfigure that. But we are hemmed in between, remember, the railroad on the west Reading side and the existing Penn Bridge over the Schuylkill River on the Reading side. This is a rendering of what that new interchange looks like. This is what's called a divergent diamond interchange. If you look closely, you'll see that traffic, we're putting 2 lanes of traffic each direction is like there is now, but traffic actually crosses over to the left-hand side of the road. What that does, it enables a free flow exit here and eliminates those left turns at a traffic signal. So if you follow through, it crosses over to the left-hand side. We have the exits, and then it crosses back over to the right through our interchange. That's a divergent diamond interchange. It's a lot more operationally efficient than what's there today. It does introduce traffic signals. If you'll notice here in the rendering, there's a traffic signal at the crossover point on either side. Obviously, we need that because the mainline traffic crosses over. You may also notice that there are 2-lane ramps in here that are signalized. Those are the heavy traffic movements that come into Reading. That would be 422 eastbound into Reading. That movement will be signalized. It's a 2-lane ramp. And you'll also notice there's a ramp here that's a 2-lane movement into the city of Reading. That is also signalized as we move across the Penn Bridge and into Reading. So we end up with 2 traffic signals on main line, plus the two ramps are signalized. And again, it eliminates those left turns, so the traffic signals are only 2-phase. So again, more operationally efficient. One of the big things that we talked about in developing this with the communities is that we need to accommodate pedestrian and bicycle movements here. Bicycle movements are accommodated in the shoulders. The shoulder widths here are going to be 6 feet wide. It is the same shoulder configuration that was on the newly reconstructed Penn Bridge over the Schuylkill River. We carry those 6-foot shoulders all the way through our interchange to the West Reading side. Pedestrian accommodations, we have crossings at these signals. So at those traffic signals now, these are all protected crossings. So pedestrians come up, push the button, we get it all red where they can cross over in a protected condition. You'll notice that we will cross into the median here at this crossover, and that's because that's how that movement flows through the traffic signal. And again, it is a protected movement. One of the other ramps up here that is not signalized, this is actually a heavy movement coming out of Reading to 422 West. That is actually going to have an RRFB. That's a rapid rectangular flashing beacon, basically a strobe that's actuated by the pedestrians as they come across, just to draw the driver's attention that there is a pedestrian crossing there. So we've tried to provide all the pedestrian crossings through the interchange area. Most of them are protected via signals at each lane, which is a pretty big improvement from what's there with the free flow Cloverleaf interchange. Again, here we get a new bridge over 422. We obviously need a new structure. We're pushing that big template through. Again, 6 lanes of 422, 10-foot shoulders outside and inside. It's a big area. So we get a new structure over 422. We also have to modify again the bridge over the Schuylkill River. It's just in this one corner. If you're familiar, there's as you come out of Reading and you turn right to go 422 West, there is a flare on that structure. That flare does not exist on the downstream side. We're going to construct that symmetrically so it looks the same as the upstream side. And what that'll do is it accommodates this ramp movement onto the new structure. So there will be work on the Penn Bridge. It's just that end span, and it's just to build the flare on there to accommodate the ramp. Obviously, it will be reconstructed in the same treatments that you have today. We also have to, especially in this area, accommodate utilities here. Most of you may remember that there's a major fiber optic duct bank that comes across here. It was accommodated in construction of the Penn Bridge over the Schuylkill River. That does extend across the bridge over 422. We need to accommodate that in our staging construction as well. And we will be maintaining all the ramp movements for this during construction. I'll cover that in a little bit more detail at the end of the presentation here, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knows we're not just shutting the interchange down to reconfigure this, but there is a way to build this new configuration under traffic and keep everybody moving during construction. Again, typical section on Penn. The only reason I'm really bringing this up is we got 2 lanes each direction, and you'll notice we have 6-foot wide shoulders out here and 6-foot wide sidewalks. So a little bit bigger platform, wide enough to accommodate bicycles in the shoulders and providing sidewalks all the way through the interchange. As we step down between Penn and Lancaster, we call this the viaduct structure. This is the structure that goes over First Ave, right by the Med-Ed substation here, and the pedestrian bridge, the Toon Trail Bridge that goes across the river over to RAC. This is a very wide area here because as we got 6 lanes in the main traffic, but between Penn and Lancaster, there are auxiliary lanes for the ramps that come out of Penn and into Lancaster and vice versa. So this structure is actually 8 lanes wide when we're all said and done. It's significantly wider than what's right there right now. And we need to build this structure in phases around the existing structure. It's at least twice as big as the existing structure right now. So that's 3-span structure, 600 feet long. It's actually a little bit shorter than the current structure, but it's more symmetrical. And what it's going to do is open up underneath the structure where Toon Trail is, the Bertolette Fishing Dock, and access to the riverfront here. First Ave will be closed during construction and when we're all said and done here. Just for construction standpoint and in the final configuration, we just can't get traffic through there. And I'll cover what we're going to do here in a second. But visually, you can kind of see this is a much larger structure, kind of opening it up underneath it as well for access to the river. Just a little zoom in on what we're talking about. You can kind of, it may be hard to see, but the existing structure is kind of right here. Again, the new bridge will be at least twice as wide as that current structure, 8 lanes plus shoulders down through there. We are maintaining access to the Toon Trail, which comes down through here. Bertolette Fishing Dock, which is right here. You'll notice down here, we built a new access road on the back side of the Med-Ed substation between Med-Ed and Norfolk Southern, which is right here. That will be the new access road during construction and after construction to access back here at Service Caster. The through movement in here right now is like that 90-degree turn between the piers underneath the bridge. That will be closed off, and we'll move that access point back to here off of Chestnut Street. That there is an existing access there, it'll just be improved for the final condition. But you can kind of see and maybe it's not very apparent, but in this area, obviously we're right up against the river. There's obviously flooding concerns here. There are walls on either side of this structure to try to keep that footprint tight. You can just think of it, we're basically doubling the size of the road down through here, right up against adjacent to the floodplain. So we're trying to make sure our footprint is as tight as we can be, and we get vertical so we're not having major impacts to the adjacent commercial in industrial sites and not impacting our flooding conditions on the Schuylkill River. So you'll see in this stretch here between Penn and Lancaster, a lot of parallel retaining walls down through here that may or may not be apparent on here, but there are walls all the way through here. So as we move down to Lancaster, just at the high level here, you can kind of see a significant change in Lancaster. Right now, you have the left-hand exits coming in there. You have two traffic signals about 150 feet apart from each other that don't operate terribly efficiently. You can kind of see, again, high level, major reconfiguration. Zoom in a little bit here. Just point a couple things out. We are changing this to a single traffic signal right here. It's going to be at Lancaster and 10. And we're going to reconfigure this interchange so it's all right-hand exits. You'll notice that you're coming on 422 eastbound. There's a right-hand exit coming right down to that intersection. And then on the other side, there's a new traffic signal here. This is opposite Fern. Fern will be cut off. We'll put a traffic signal here, and this will be the access point getting back on the right-hand side on 422 east. Westbound, similar. You have a right-hand exit, flyover configuration into the intersection here. That'll be signalized on 10. And as you move out, whether you're coming down 10 or Lancaster, coming across Binghamton, you come underneath the new structure on the right-hand side and then head towards Penn. So when we're all said and done, we get to right-hand exits on all four movements here in a single traffic light on Lancaster. It may not be terribly apparent, but we'll zoom in a little bit here. When we're all said and done, there are 6 lanes on Lancaster at that traffic signal, and that accommodates dual left turns. The other thing you might notice here is this is the Binghamton Street Bridge. The Binghamton Street Bridge will be replaced as part of this project, all the way from the Reading side across the river and into the interchange. So that bridge gets replaced as part of the project, and then Canal Street gets reconfigured there as well. Right now, it kind of splits around the piers. We're going to put that back together because we won't have a pier there anymore. And then one other thing, Toon Trail, those of you that use the trail, which is quite a few, Toon Trail kind of works its way through here right now. There's that existing ped bridge that goes over top of Lancaster right here, and then we continue on through. You'll see that we're accommodating Toon Trail. We wind through the interchange on the new structures, over the ramps, and then back over on the west side. So we are accommodating the Toon Trail through the project as well. So graphically in the rendering here, you got to get maybe a better sense of what this looks like. We're on Lancaster looking towards the Binghamton Street Bridge on the other side. This is that single traffic light that's going to be on Lancaster when we're all said and done. You can kind of see 6 lanes on Lancaster right at the traffic signal. That's to accommodate dual left turn lanes, both coming out of the city and heading into the city back on the 422. That single traffic light makes a big difference from a traffic operations standpoint. It makes this a lot more efficient than the dual traffic signals that are there right now. The other thing you may notice here is we're accommodating peds and bikes on Lancaster. We're providing a 5-foot shoulder. There is no shoulder there right now, but there will be 5-foot shoulders on either side that can accommodate bikes. And you'll notice that there are sidewalks on both sides that continue all the way through the interchange area and across the Binghamton Street Bridge into the city. So we want to make sure we accommodated both of those peds and bikes through the project. Obviously, you see a new bridge on 422 that goes over Lancaster, much larger structure, widthwise and lengthwise, just to open things up underneath there and get over all the things that we need to get over. We talked about Binghamton Street being replaced. And obviously, when you're getting into roads like Penn and Lancaster, there are a lot of utilities that need to be accommodated, coordinated, and relocated as part of the project. One of the things you might see in here is we talked about Toon Trail. Toon Trail is actually going to be accommodated by the new 422 bridge on the outside here. And then with the new ped bridge over the ramp will be actually over here. So we will separate the trail traffic outside of all the traffic movements through the interchange when we're all said and done. Just real quick, again, Lancaster Ave, just to give you a sense, 11-foot lanes or 6 lanes at the intersection, 5-foot shoulders. That's the only reason I bring this up, 6-foot sidewalks. So to show that we are widening things. One of the things I probably forgot to bring up, and I'll bop back here, the fire station is at the corner here. What we did is we held the curb line on the fire station side and we're widening away. This is the old diner that sits over here. So all our widening is away from this curb line and by the fire station. So just a quick look, looking from the city side across the river. This is the new Bingham Street Bridge. You can kind of see 4 lanes wide, plus shoulders, plus sidewalks on the outsides all the way through. It does widen out as we get to the intersection and we cross across the river there. And you get a sense of how all this ties in, the new structure into the intersection underneath the 422 bridge overhead. Looking at the new connection there at Route 10, this is that new signalized intersection that we're going to put in. Fern Ave is right here. We're going to close that off. The reason we're closing that off is so we don't have any cut-through traffic going through residential areas. So we don't want people coming off of 422 and trying to skip the light here and go through residential areas. So we're actually cutting Fern off. They'll have to go down to Lancaster or up 10, depending on where their destination is. But you can kind of see flyover structure here for these movements. And then you can kind of see Toon Trail makes its way through the interchange all the way to the other side. And there is a stretch here on 10 between Lancaster and the new intersection that is slightly wider, providing some additional width for turn lanes and shoulders through there as well. You also notice that there's sidewalks that continue on 10 all the way through. So that is Lancaster. That other little piece of the project that we're doing is down at what we're calling, again, Schuylkill River Bridge 2. It's just west of the 176 interchange. What that is going to do is address the bridge itself, which is a twin girder fracture critical structure, and B, accommodate the future 6-lane section plus the acceleration lane coming off of 176. Just a quick blow up of what that looks like so everybody can kind of get a sense of what we're doing here. This is the on-ramp. Right now it kind of dives in, and the bridge is right here. Everybody knows it's a very short acceleration lane. When we're all said and done, even in the interim condition, when we're just building these bridges, that accel lane will come in parallel and be a normal current criteria accel lane before it merges back in down by the Norfolk Southern Bridge. So you won't have that abrupt diving into traffic when we're all said and done here. These structures will be built for the 6-lane configuration. In the final condition, that 3rd lane adds and drops at 176. So in the final condition, this lane actually becomes the 3rd lane as you're heading towards Reading. So there will not be a merge in our final build-out condition 29M. In the interim, it will have a merge. And then in the final full build-out condition, that 3rd lane actually drops to 176 south, and we continue 2 lanes on 176 east of the interchange. So I wanted to kind of walk through, that was a quick overview of the details of what we're doing here, but I kind of want to walk through one of the big pieces that everybody always asks about: how do you build this? And it's a big deal because we can't just shut down traffic. We can't shut down interchanges while we're building this stuff. So we need to accommodate traffic. So I wanted to kind of walk through it in large terms so everybody understands how we get this built, going from here at Pan at full cloverleaf to a divergent diamond. So I'm going to walk through real quick. Here's what we're going to do. In essence, we're going to build this interchange in halves. Now there will be like some small interim phases in here, but in essence, we're building this whole thing in halves. What we're doing is you'll see some temporary ramps coming in here and here. So initially we'll build these temporary ramps, put a temporary signal here and here. And what that does is it allows us to move the traffic all to one exit ramp instead of having the 2 exit ramps. So anybody coming down to here will end up at this ramp. Anybody coming west ends up at this ramp here. So we put temporary signals in here. It allows us to shut off a lot of these existing ramps and build half of this interchange all at once. All the ramps we can get done, a portion of the bridge we can get done. So we do that phase. Then we flop it over to the other side. So in essence, we built a footprint for the new interchange, or a portion of the new interchange over here. Again, we put those temporary signals here and here that accommodates all the ramp movements. We just direct them into coordinated traffic signals on each end, and that frees up the other side of the interchange to build. So once we get that all built out, we move into mainline, because I can't build mainline until that current structure is out of the way. That current structure only accommodates the 4-lane section. I need to accommodate a much wider section. So once I get all my ramps built in those 2 major phases, half to half, I can build my main line, and then we can start widening out mainline. And that happens in 3 major phases, because again, we are keeping 2 lanes of traffic open on 422 at all times during construction. So we cannot take a lane down. We're going to keep them all open. That's why there's a lot of little phases in here to get this stuff built. So even mainline has to be built in 3 separate phases. We go 1, 2, 3. We already had the ramps. And then we get our final configuration in a divergent timing configuration. So obviously a little bit more complex than that, but I wanted to make sure everybody understood it. We're going to build this, keeping all those movements open. So we're not shutting ramps down. People will be able to get to where they need to go during construction as well. Walking through Lancaster again, just so everybody understands how this has to get built, because it is a big undertaking to go from that current configuration where we have all those ramps inside on the left-hand side with the traffic signal here and here, how we get from that to the final condition. So the first thing we need to do is build all that stuff on the outside. So we built the off ramps over here. We build a portion of 10. We build all of the new connections here from 10 to 422. We do that all under traffic. We still got 2 lanes of traffic on 422 in their current locations. We're just building that extra infrastructure on the outside. In that first phase, we also, you can kind of see, remember I told you we're widening away from the firehouse. So we're widening Lancaster away from the firehouse where the old diner was. Once that's in place, what that does for us is it takes this movement, and this movement out of the middle. So I only have 1 lane left in the middle, and I only have to accommodate that 1 movement. That movement is to 422 westbound. When we have that, then I can build a portion of that new structure right down the middle. It's going to look super weird. It's a 2-lane section of bridge right down the middle of those ramps where you got a ramp going on. But that's how we need to stage this in order to piece the whole puzzle together and get this built. You can kind of see in that initial stage, once we get the traffic out of the ramps in the middle, we start building structure down the middle. We're also handling the Route 10 widening out here, the second half of the Route 10 widening, and wrapping up on Lancaster. Once we get that, then I have traffic right down the middle on that new piece of bridge that heads down the middle, 2 lanes of traffic, shift traffic over, build 1/3 of mainline down through here. And then once that's in place, that's my entire 1 direction bridge. I can get all my mainline traffic on that. And I start building on the outside, on the river side, to tie everything back together. So once I get the traffic out here, I can take the old 422 westbound bridge out, get that reconfigured. And then in the final phase, you'll notice this. Bingham Street Bridge gets closed in the final phase. So Bingham Street Bridge is an open spandrel concrete arch. It's only 2 arch lines. I can't phase it. I need to close it and detour it to get it demolished and reconstructed. So in this final phase, for a time, that connection will be closed. What we're trying to do is make sure that Penn Street is fully constructed and open prior to closing the Bingham Street Bridge, so there's no traffic queues heading into the Penn interchange. We have that new interchange more operationally efficient in place before we get to this piece where we're closing Bingham Street. That is the final phase. Once we get that done, we're all said and done with Lancaster. So again, it just that kind of high level, it's always interesting for people. They always ask me how we get this stuff built. That's how we get it built. It does take time to build heavy infrastructure like this under traffic. Again, 2 lanes of traffic all the time on 422, maintaining Route 10 traffic, maintaining Lancaster traffic. Bingham Street is open except for that final
The fuck are you
phase.
talking about?
So that's what we're doing. When are we doing it? So here's our schedule. We got environmental clearance back in August of 2023. Environmental clearance we got for the entire project, not just this first phase of construction. We got it for the entire project so we can move the secondary phases afterwards. If anybody's been in the field and noticed a lot of drill rigs out there, we ran 3 core boring contracts over the last year in the river on the sides. We're doing some geotechnical exploration for all our structures. Remember, I said there's a lot of walls out there. There's a lot of bridges out there. So we got a head start on all our core boring contracts to do the geotechnical work. There are still 2 more planned. There should be another rig out there early next year. And then we'll have to do some stormwater drilling next summer as well. So there should be 2 more rounds of geotechnical exploration. Final design, we actually just got notice to proceed this week. So we are officially in final design for this project. So that opens up a lot of different things for us. One of the things that you may have noticed in some of the renderings that we have here, you might have saw some noise walls. There are noise walls that may be in place out there. There will be noise-specific public meetings coming next fall. Noise walls were identified as potential between in that Lancaster Avenue area and further east as part of this project. So we will have noise-specific public meetings coming out probably next fall. Right-of-way acquisition, obviously, when we're doing a big project like this, and widening out, we will need some additional right-of-way for construction. That acquisition process should start in the spring of 26. We also have permit submissions, waterway permits for all our structures and our parallel structures, and also MPDS structures for stormwater management. Obviously, we're making a much larger impervious areas here with all the new lanes and shoulder widths and stuff like that. So we need to address that through permitting. Those permits are planned to go in spring of 26. And the current let date, when we say let date, that means when we're going to bid the project, is summer of 2027. So what that means is we bid the project summer 2027. Construction commences late 27 into 28. So what's it cost? Section PH1, remember we said summer of 27, so heavy construction starts in 28. Current construction estimate is $362 million. It is a big undertaking out here, a lot of infrastructure and a lot of construction in and around traffic to get it in place. We're anticipating some heavy utility right away. CENG is construction engineering. That's construction inspection and other associated tasks. So construction, $362 million. Section 29M, that will be the balance of the project. Currently estimated let in 2034. That will be after we're finished construction of the PH1. That should come out on the heels of it, finish the overall corridor. That piece is estimated in today's dollars at $182 million. So 2 very large projects. And if you're doing the math there, 2034 to 2027, we're looking at about 6 years of construction in that initial phase to build the Penn Lancaster interchanges plus River Bridge 2 and the Norfolk Southern Bridge. So that was a lot. Dave, I'm ready for some questions. If you guys are, I can also jump into another plan if we need to drill down into any more detail. So I'm ready when you are, Dave.
Okay, thank you, Tim. It's an incredible project, a lot of time, a lot of energy going into it. And I think it's interesting to see the accommodations that have been made over time in dealing with the pedestrians and the bike material as well. a number of questions, and I'm going to run back up through them. Are there going to be any changes on the city side of the Buttonwood Bridge that you know of?
On Buttonwood,
Yeah,
no, the only thing we're touching on Buttonwood is those 3 spans that go over 422. Let me pop in here real quick. So if you look, I'm going to zoom in, and I'll give it a second here because I know there's probably a little bit of lag. If I can get this going. So the only thing we're doing while I'm waiting for that to come up is the 3 spans over 422. The arc spans start right on the river side. We are not touching any of the arc spans or doing anything on the city side. We just need to reconstruct these 3 spans.
okay,
The 2 that go over 422, and then there's an empty span over here, right up against the railroad. We're actually going to use that empty span to maintain traffic. So I got 2 lanes of traffic going at all times, right? So I need to build out underneath that empty span, shift traffic over, build a span, shift traffic over. So we got to jockey traffic around there. We're going to use all 3 spans to do that, but we're only going to be reconstructing this 3 span piece of Buttonwood.
okay. We have a question. What effect do you think all of this will have on VPD development?
VPD.
Yeah,
Maybe you can help me out with that one, Dave, a little bit.
I'm not sure what they mean by
Trying to drive
VPD either.
Vehicles per day.
Okay. thank you,
Oh, is it
Dean.
going to be a traffic generator? Okay, VP. Okay, I'm sorry. It will accommodate the current traffic. So right now, obviously, there's quite a bit of congestion in the main corridor and at the interchanges. This is designed for a design year of, I believe, 2050, if I recall correctly. It will accommodate the traffic generation volumes that we're anticipating down through here. That's why it's a 3-lane section. Will it generate? That's to be seen. It can accommodate what the traffic volumes that we need, plus the projections that we project out. We always project 20 years beyond the finish of construction. It will accommodate those traffic projections. Whether that generates additional traffic from development because we now have a corridor is to be seen.
Okay, we have a question about if the Penn Street shoulders are 6 feet wide, why can't the protected bike lanes across Penn Street be 6 feet wide as well?
So we're providing the width for it, the same as the existing bridge over Lancaster. It is not a bicycle path per se because it doesn't go anywhere on either end of the project. What we're trying to do is set the plate so it can be in the future. So we can't just have a bike lane just through our project. It has to be connected to something on either side. So what we're trying to do is accommodate it in the future. So we're providing the 6-foot wide footprint that we need. It just, if there is development along that whole corridor in the future, you will be able to do something specific for a bike route. Does that make sense, Dave?
Yeah, that makes sense. Will there be any changes to the road going to the Bertolette Fishing Dock?
So what we're going to do down there is, remember I said we're going to close off First Ave when we're all set. This access point will stay. And because that's an access for Bertolette Fishing Dock, it's also an access for a parking area here, a trailhead for Toon Trail. But that's all that will be down there. The through movement is what is going to be cut off and moved back behind Med Ed. So that through movement will be cut off, but the access to the Bertolette Fishing Dock and the parking areas down here for Toon Trail will remain when we're all said and done.
Okay. Will the existing Franklin Street underpass be widened and maintained?
That is under discussion right now. So those of you who are familiar, Franklin Street is right here. It's just east of the Penn interchange. It's a 20-foot wide culvert. There's a water line that runs through. It's actually gated off right now. They're having discussions whether that's needed in the future or not. Right now, we have it as planned to replace and widen to accommodate a much wider area here. But there is a question whether that is actually necessary connection at this point. because you can access the utilities and everything that's down here from the ramp over on this side and come back underneath and get there. That's a discussion point, Dave.
Okay. What about pedestrian and bike access across the Bingham Street Bridge? Is that going to be something that's going to be taken care of, added to?
So Bingham Street Bridge, we got 6-foot sidewalks on both sides on the bridge, protected from traffic. So you have a barrier between the sidewalk and the road. We also have those 5-foot wide shoulders. Again, this is very similar to what we're doing at Penn. We're setting the table so you can make that connection. So right now there's no shoulder there. There'll be a
Mhm.
5-foot shoulder that can be that can accommodate bikes. It will not be painted out as a bike lane, but it will accommodate bikes all the way across the bridge to the Reading side and all the way through our project area up to 2 blocks off of the interchange.
So there will be access to pedestrian and bike paths on the north side of the Bingham Street Bridge?
From the surface streets, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, from the surface
Okay.
streets, yes.
How long do you think the Bingham Street Bridge is going to be closed?
Bingham Street, I mean, that is a large structure. Just to demolish it and reconstruct it takes a lot of time. Plus, in the river, I can't just shut off the river either, right? So I gotta
Right.
put causeway out halfway, do some demo and a flop causeway. At least a year and a half, if not 2 years. What speeds it up is that we can detour it. We can shut it down and get after that structure and get it demolished and then reconstructed. I think in our schedule, we have it at about a year and a half right now.
Okay.
It's not, that bridge itself is not a small undertaking.
No, it's a big project by itself. Yes. If I remember right, there's a cemetery at the location where the new Route 10 is going to come in. What happens to that?
Nothing. So the cemetery, so those of you that
Right
don't know,
there.
is right here. This is the Gerber Fix Cemetery. It's actually right off of 422 right now. Where the trail we have it shown here, that's actually today, that is 422 eastbound right here. So the cemetery is literally a stone's throw from 422. When we reconstruct everything, 422 actually moves towards the river. We move it away and we put the trail between 422 and the cemetery. We are accommodating access to the trail and to the cemetery for maintenance activities off of Route 10 as well. So we're avoiding, trying, obviously don't
Okay.
impact the cemetery, but we're avoiding it, moving things quite far away from it and providing some access to it.
Are there any enterprises or businesses that are going to be affected by the relocation of that exit ramp?
By this exit ramp,
Yeah.
obviously we have UGI down here. The only thing we're really doing here is there's that traffic signal goes in here,
Right.
cutting off ferns. So that
And cutting off fern.
gets cut off here. And really, if I zoom out a little bit, the concern was that people would come off here and say, I don't want to go down to Lancaster.
Yeah.
Turn left, that they just cut through. We didn't want to push traffic through that residential area. So that's why that is being cut off.
Okay.
During construction, we obviously need to accommodate access to all these businesses and residences down through here, which will be accommodated during construction as well.
And the Toon Trail, there's going to be some new bridges and underpasses and some relocation of the trail. Whose responsibility is that going to be over time? Is that going to be PennDOT or is it going to be given to somebody
Department of
else?
Ways owns and maintains the trail, and that will continue to be the case.
Okay. I'm going down here through our questions. The Titus Station project, when the project's in process, what impact will that have?
So the decommissioning project down here,
Yeah,
in PH1, we're just doing this piece of the project. So Titus Station is south of the Toon Trail here. We're actually, where we're at River Bridge 2 in Norfolk Southern, we're replacing those 2 structures, but we're actually shifting upstream. I'm sorry, downstream at this location, north, I should say. So that, like I explained at the beginning, we need to do alignment shifts here because those 422 bridges over the river are twin girder bridges. There's only two main girders that support all 4 lanes right now. I can't phase construction those. So we have alignment shifts to build half of a new bridge, get traffic over on it, demo the old structure, and then build half. That's why we're doing it here. But we intentionally shifted the alignment in this area away from the Titus Station decommissioning project.
Okay. I know there've been questions about the lighting along this part of 422. Is that going to be changed at all?
There will be interchange lighting. There's sort of interchange lighting there now. I guess there has been in the past. So, there will be interchange lighting as part of this project. Yes.
And we have a question about what is the impact on traffic east of where you're going to be doing this work over in Exeter Township? Is it going to, do you think it's going to relocate or disrupt traffic and move it into Exeter Township more than what currently happens?
Yeah, the overall project ends just on the other side of 176. So when we're all said and done with the West Shore Bypass reconstruction projects, that's both phases of construction, we end right here at the Norfolk Southern Bridge. I believe this is Mascaro right there. That's where we tie in. And if you remember, I said the 3rd lane adds and drops here at 176. So through here and all the way to the end, we're only 4 lanes through that. So we do have alignment shifts because, again, we need to replace this off a line because it's a twin girder structure. But from a width standpoint, we're just adding shoulders on the outside. We only have a 4-lane section from 176 east. But the overall reconstruction project, our project, ends right at the Norfolk Southern Bridge, which is right by Mascaro.
So from the beginning of when you start the construction to when it's going to be done, how long do you think it's going to take? I mean, you gave us some timeframes, and you're doing so many different phases to the project.
Yeah, it takes time to build this large infrastructure projects under traffic. So we're anticipating 6 years of construction for that initial project, but that is that's a lot going on there with Penn and Lancaster. I would anticipate another 4 years to build out that next phase. So all in, I would think we're going to be somewhere around 10 years of construction, beginning to end, to do that 5.2 miles all the way from 222 down past 176.
That's a lot of time for a big project.
It's a lot. Yeah. And if you saw the dollar figures, it's a lot.
It is a lot. But
just in this initial section, there are 20 structures. They might not look like 20, but there are 20 structures in there between all the bridges and the retaining walls down through here, and potential noise walls as well. That's just in that initial PH1. There's a lot more structures in the next phase too. If you think about, this stretch down here by Brentwood, there's a bridge over Brentwood and then 2 bridges over the Schuylkill River that have to be replaced. Those are not small structures. Slight reconfiguration in 176 just to accommodate the new configuration. And as we move west of Buttonwood, it is very tight through there. So remember, we got 2 overhead railroad bridges coming across there. You got the North Wyomissing below our interchange up there. And then we got the interchanges with 12 and 222. So very tight to shoehorn a lot of infrastructure in, even west of Buttonwood.
It's going to be somebody's career doing this for the rest of their career.
Very large undertaking, yes.
But if I'm correct, the only part of the project where there will not be traffic allowed anywhere is across the Bingham Street Bridge, right?
Yes, we're accommodating traffic movements in every other phase, all the ramps and all the side roads.
Is the funding available for this already? Has it been allocated by PennDOT? Or to PennDOT?
Earl, or maybe Alan. Alan, can I pitch that to you?
All right.
Sorry, I'm looking for my microphone. All of the funding was in place based on current estimates going into this transportation improvement program. We were one thing that we were hoping to do was to be able to get a $216 million federal grant that would help guarantee that those dollars are available. Unfortunately, we were not successful in the current application, and we'll need to go back and look. The state has a lot of discretionary money in this project. It's certainly, at over 300 million, it's much more than the $78 million that we get a year in the regular allocation to Berks County. So we're relying on a lot of state discretionary money being applied to it. We're going to need to go back and do some discussions with PennDOT to make sure that it's all there before we get to that 2027 start date.
Okay. Alan, is there anything the community or organizations in the community can do to support the request for those funds?
Not at this point in time, because the decision was already made in Washington. Unfortunately, the next round of, the grant program that we were applying, or that the PennDOT was applying to, covered the last 2 years of the current federal legislation. So that's for federal fiscal years 25 and 26.
Okay.
So the next round of grants are going to have to look or be dependent on that legislation being extended past 2026,
Okay.
and whether or not the programs are still available and how many dollars are out there. PennDOT is in the process of going through a debriefing with the Federal Highway Administration to help understand why this project was not selected, so that if we do go back and we reapply in the future, we can make modifications to the application to try and make it better, to make it more palatable for funding.
Okay, good. We have a question about, and I apologize for the dog barking in the background. We have a question about the final plan being approved in November of 24. Does it show any right-of-ways being acquired by the spring of 2026?
No, we got authorization to start on final design just this week, so November of 24.
So the right-of-ways,
Anticipate starting the right-of-way acquisition process in the spring of 26. So we still got some time to get to that point. So the right-of-way, we have to develop right-of-way plans, finalize what we need, and then the acquisition process where property owners will be contacted would be in 2026.
and I'm going to call on my colleague, John Weidenhammer, had a question. Let him ask his question. Is the last one we have for you. John?
So something that I've been curious about for a long period of time is, was there ever any consideration of extending 9th Street south out of Reading and connecting up with either 422 or 76 to provide a secondary access further east on 422 to come into the city? In other words, go sort of in a north direction off of 422 or 76 to connect with 9th Street to come into the bottom of the city. There's an existing road there, not very well improved, but would alleviate some of the traffic going kind of maybe another 2 miles to get to Bingham Street.
I think I'm going to pitch that one to Alan too. Alan, any insight there?
Yes, never eat lunch during a presentation. The idea was broached. If anybody is familiar with the current 9th Street right now, it's built basically as a ledge on a cliff with a railroad track below it and a steep mountain above it. It's severe environmental impacts to trying to make widening of that roadway to bring it up to current design standards. You've got the idea then that even if you could get around the end of Neversink Mountain, you'd still have to build an interchange out on somewhere on Poplar Neck. We've got that a very narrow window in there that probably is not able to meet current design standards for spacing between interchanges, as far as the distance between 176 and where the on and off ramps would be for any new interchange in that area. And then accommodating that into those adjacent crossings over the Schuylkill River. So that really it was looked at cursorily, but the negatives far out exceeded the positives.
Thanks, Alan. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Earl. A very fascinating presentation, a lot of work and a lot more to come. We really appreciate that. Hopefully you found this useful for you as well. It is a really amazing project that's going to require a lot of energy, money, and work. So thank you for sharing this. Everyone, we will send a copy of the video to everyone who registered for the program. And as we mentioned earlier, we'll post it on the Berks Alliance website and share it with BCTV. Feel free to share the presentation with anybody who you think would be interested. Thank you for joining us today, and we will close off our meeting.
Thanks, everybody. Great presentation, Earl and Tim. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave, for your work.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.